everyone's talking about trying to get the young vote. At least that's who they're after. The internet is playing so much already in this campaign. What's the most important thing to try and get the young people to vote for you?
Since when are they so interested in the young vote?
Do you know when when the voting age was lowered to 18?
Lower to 18?
No.
Do you know when the voting age was lowered to 18?
No. I have no clue.
No, it wasn't.
When the voting age was lowered to 18?
Lowered to 18? I think in the Vietnam War, I want to say they lowered it because if people were going off and getting killed, they should be allowed to vote as well.
In fact, it was the 26th Amendment which lowered the voting age to 18. But this right wasn't gained easily. There was a movement years before 1971 that tried to lower the voting age, but it was unsuccessful. Once the Vietnam War started, however, people were noticing that the soldiers dying for the country couldn't even take part in its elections. This was when the slogan, "Old enough to fight, old enough to vote," was born. Finally, Congress succumbed to the pressure and ratified the 26th Amendment in 1971.
None will ever own the mind. Nobody of it is worth.
The reason I believe that your generation, the 11 million new voters, will do so much for America at home is that you will infuse into this country some idealism, some courage, some stamina, some high moral purpose that this nation always needs.
The thing be kind exposed. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke.
But why is it that young people don't vote?
I think young people don't care.
We don't like read newspapers as much, or like, you know, stay informed. We're more into like whatever's going on in our little bubble.
I don't know. I feel like we don't watch the news enough. We're not interested in politics enough. It's not in our curriculum at school, so we don't really care.
We're thinking about our school, and we're busy with what's going on in our immediate lives.
Because they think one vote doesn't matter.
Why do you think that?
Because of what we saw with the Bush-Gore election, that the Electoral College can just switch it up. And one vote really doesn't matter, they're just appeasing the people. And the young people are catching on to that.
I think a lot of them feel kind of like they don't have a say, like it's not going to make a difference. It's almost logical to say one vote, so what, you know? Well, personally, the reason why I don't vote or haven't voted in the past is because just turning 18, not really well informed on the situations that are going on. And to get more informed, I'd have to look into it, and it's really something that doesn't fit into my schedule.
Personally, I think that it's really a question of apathy. I think that most people our age are concerned with other things.
The closest we've ever gotten to 1972 numbers was in 2004, with approximately 11.6 million votes. Unfortunately, we failed to change the direction of our government then. In the last 8 years, the United States has changed dramatically. Our government has done things that are, to say the very least, questionable.
Part of the reason we went into Iraq was the main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't, but he had the capacity to make weapons of mass destruction. But I also talked about the human suffering in Iraq. What did Iraq have to do with what? The attack on the World Trade Center. Nothing. Iraq was the lesson of September 11th is take threats before they fully materialize.
The early images of Guantanamo Bay. The men in the orange jumpsuits, said the American military, were enemy combatants in the war on terror and must be detained indefinitely. For 6 years, the US government has insisted that these detention camps are necessary and just.
FEMA's been on the ground for 4 days, going into the 5th day. Why no massive airdrop of food and water?
Should Americans continue to sit back passively and allow the government to fleece away our freedom? Or is it time to become wolves and fight for our rights? Freedom of speech is a God-given right absolutely protected by the United States Constitution in the First Amendment. But ever since the Patriot Act was signed into law, this freedom has been severely diminished. For the first time in 230 years, a law exists that prevents Americans from exercising these most basic rights. Violate this law, and under the Patriot Act, you could find yourself spending up to 5 years behind bars.
It's time for a drastic change in our direction. So the question becomes, are candidates doing a good job reaching out to the young voters?
I think they'd like to, but that's not like a big thing on their agenda, I really doubt.
They're definitely making an attempt. I mean, with debates on YouTube, for instance, I mean, I don't know who else frequents YouTube except for students and young adults. Right. So I figure that the 18 to 24 demographic really is what they're aiming for with with the internet advertising and like the YouTube debates and things. I think they're obviously making MTV is doing a huge thing on the Rock the Vote, or whatever it's called. Especially last term, they made a huge effort to get young people involved.
I think they're doing a pretty good job. I mean, it's interesting. Like when I listen to it, I find it interesting. So
I think now with this generation, I think people are doing it very well with MySpace interviews, and when the last GOP debate was YouTube debate, which means that people sending their questions via YouTube. And I think that is the best way to do it, because now you have all the old people who don't even know how to program a VCR. Now you have the younger people sending their questions of what they want to see on YouTube, and the candidates not so much dodging the questions, but actually answering them.
I'm sure they are, but they haven't really done much out here that I've heard of. Something they could do, like if they want the young vote, they should actually go to college campuses, do debates, rallies, whatever, just get like the college people involved, because that's who they're trying to get more people to vote from.
They are trying, but at the same time, it's also, we have to reciprocate and give back. We have to start paying attention, and it's about, do we want to? So I don't know if it's really reaching out to us that much right now.
Because I agree with Dante that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in a period of moral crisis maintain their neutrality. There comes a time when silence is betrayal.
This is a pivotal election. We have to elect the leaders that will lead us into the future. We have to realize that voting is essential, because the decisions that our government makes will affect us directly, not only in the short run, but in the long run as well. Decisions made by the current administration, for example, will have an impact in the next 5, 10 to 15 years. We have to take our future into our own hands. Young people need to come out in vast numbers in the next election to vote. We have to beat the 12.2 million votes set in 1972. We must be heard. We must vote.